Okay, this is Better Drinking Up Buddies, episode 7. That's Luke.
Hey,
That's Russell. Russell is a realtor and investor in DC, and Luke is a investor, flipper, realtor, supposed hotshot, too nice for his own good in Las Vegas.
hey, not actually a realtor. I just own a brokerage.
Okay. So speaking of which, I'm getting my license right now, and I do not want to sell houses at all, but I kind of want to own a brokerage.
Why? Brokerage is not a very profitable business.
It can be a good piggyback business. That's why we did it.
How is it for ego? It's all I'm motivated by.
Well, I mean, you can use it as a great tool for ego. So what are you drinking there, Alex? Is that water?
No, it's whiskey
In a bottle.
and Coca-Cola. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing whiskey. I'm doing tequila, and I'm going to pour myself a glass right now.
In my fancy bigger pockets. Yeti.
I've got one of those water bottles someplace.
So I'm poor, and I moved into this poor house, and that doesn't have an ice maker, and I didn't realize it till like very recently. And I don't have ice trays because I'm really poor, and so I was like, man, I need something that's not gonna like be warm.
Well,
So
I think what you're saying is you need a really good friend to like mail you the see that sphere? That is actually the Death Star. So they're molds of the Death Star that a buddy of mine sent me. So maybe I can
Luke, I told you you're too nice for your own good already, and you sent me those books, and I'm incredibly thankful. So you sent me 2 copies. I have a weird thing about books. I don't give away books, but I always give away duplicates.
Yeah, that's why I sent 2.
I have 2 copies. I'm going to give one away to somebody that I think deserves it. So thank you.
That's exactly why I do it.
Now, when can I get my Death Star ice maker? When is that coming?
Go check your door. All right.
So,
Russell, what are you drinking?
Some Coke and rum.
Coke and rum. All right. Not rum and Coke, but
Try not to go too hard tonight though, because I got to get up and see a photographer in the morning.
same. I have to go film Natalie at 9 a.m. 2.5 hours away.
Don't you guys work for yourselves? Shouldn't you plan this out better?
This is me. This is as good as I can plan anything. I did a 12-part series, video series for Bigger Pockets. That is, Tuesday's my last one, but Tuesday's my last one as a safety, my 13th one, and we'll drop whichever one they like least. But so it's been incredibly stressful. So I'm finally happy to have it basically wrapped.
Nice. Are you doing post on it, or is that actually just film it and go?
I have done everything. I did the logistics, the story, filming, editing,
Starring.
I'm in it. Yep, 100%. I'm in it. I'm in it. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a fun stretch because I wanted to learn videography this year. And
Cool. Well, cheers to you, and thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
I've seen a couple of the videos. They're very entertaining. I think very high quality.
Those are different than the ones you sent me, Alex, right?
He kept his clothes on in these videos, so
Luke should be so lucky. I don't know what I sent you, Luke. I think I sent you my flip video, which is interesting because, well, I fucked it up so bad, so unbelievably bad. But you know,
hopefully the video and not the flip.
The flip came out well. The flip was good. The flip was fairly uneventful. So the fact that I got an interesting video out of it is like kind of a testament to.
Don't you know nobody wants to see it unless it has drama?
Yeah, you know who likes this? Russell likes this. Luke, have you ever read The Hero of a Thousand Faces?
I don't think so. It sounds familiar, but I don't think I've read it.
So the idea is that, well, I didn't get the book. So a lot of people speak so highly of it and it just could not resonate with me. But the idea is the hero story is the same story that's been the same since the dawn of stories. And it's like the Marvel story, right? It's like, it's this very specific arc. And the way that they structure it and the way they tell you the like, oh, here's 1,000 stories that all basically are the same story.
From all different cultures, from all different points in history.
So is it, when did the book come out?
50, 75 years ago.
Okay. All right.
You might like it. It wasn't bad. I just couldn't.
Yeah, it's I'm familiar with it, but I don't think I've read it, or at least I haven't read it all the way through.
But the idea, like you said about the drama, yeah, it's like people. YouTube's kind of a weird nut to crack, I think, because it's incredibly open in that the traditional 20-minute format and then a 5-minute commercial on TV, like that format is dead forever. The options are limited. But at the same time, humanity, I believe, is going to still want their 3-part arc and these very same stories. So yeah, that's my hard part, is like finding a way to create a drama in a house flip especially when things go okay, you know?
Yeah. And on that note, we do have to pause for commercial break. So
yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, nobody would sponsor this, so no, we're good.
No, we're not getting paid for this? What?
We're not getting paid for this. Yeah.
I keep dropping names on my stuff, hoping that I'll get a liquor sponsor. I've got some friends in the industry that I just need to flat out ask, hey, give me some free booze.
I think
no cheap stuff.
If you have views, I think somebody would do it for sure. Especially like locals. You could get like a local brewery, I bet.
Is like 4 good? Is that a large number of viewers?
It is for me.
No, I think on my last few that I did as Facebook Lives, I had some really good traction, and not just viewers, but a lot of people commenting, and it was a lot of fun, a lot more interaction, especially because in my ones that I do, I have like a guest host. And actually, Alex, I was going to have you come on and be a guest before you left to move to the other side of the world. But when you were in Vegas, you were, and I know you're a whiskey guy, and I've got some really nice ones that I brought back from Ireland when I was there.
So 2 things. One, as soon as Vegas opens back up, I'm going to come visit because I miss that place dearly. 2, and that's going to be a good segue. My long-term plan, and it's not completely coincidental that you guys are both on here. My long-term plans include moving out of Fayetteville and into a higher price point city that has inevitable growth. Vegas was on the top of that list because for a lot of reasons that Luke, I'm sure, already agrees with. Now it's a little bit less certain because of what's going on, but in the long run, I'm still pretty bullish on Vegas. DC is for certain, like, I don't think there's any chance, any way in hell that something that could happen to that city to make it not grow. But that being said, I am curious what your thoughts on the Vegas market are, because I am bullish in the long run. I personally have a tendency to think that this is going to largely blow over the COVID-19 thing, despite, okay, there's nobody on, so usually I'd be getting the alert to be going off right now. I think that this is going to largely blow over, and I think Vegas will bounce back slowly but strongly in the long run. And so I'm curious your thoughts on the market, because I'd like to plan to come back.
So I'm on the opposite side of that. And, you and I, Alex, have known each other for a good number of years now, right? Going on
3-4 years,
right? Yeah. I've always been about investing safely, and that just kind of leads my views to the cautious side, not pessimistic, but cautious. And I'd really, I'm looking at it that, we're going to have an okay summer, but I don't think the schools are going to open up in August, September. And I think that's going to be a real rude awakening for people, where it's just going to stop things more.
Yeah, so I talked to Neil. You know Neil Henderson. I don't know if you remember my name, but I spoke to him today. He's trying to sell his house in Las Vegas right now. I sold mine in November, by the way, looking like quite the genius I am. And so my thing with Vegas is this: everything that made Vegas popular, I think none of that changed in the long run, and certainly the money hasn't changed. The cost of living is low. The weather is good for what it is compared to California without the California prices. So my fear is kind of what you said, but I think about it more like the casinos are going to open up and everybody's going to think things go back to normal, and then they're going to see it at 30% occupancy, and they're going to go, oh, this is weird. And Vegas is not a place that you go to have a quiet weekend alone. Vegas is a place you go to get rambunctious with a billion other people. And so if there's not a billion people there, I worry that people are going, let's open up, kind of like holding themselves to that timeline. And then when it opens up and they realize, oh, it's still not the same, then I wonder if the panic starts. But I'm thinking more of like an 18 to 24 month timeline. Will you see a resurgence?
It'll be 2 years to figure out the new norm. I mean, I would agree with that. And, you said that 30% mark, and the casinos have been talking about that a bit lately, right? Because that 30% is their break-even point, is what they say for occupancy rates. But
that seems low.
It is, and I don't think that's the true full story that they're talking about. Because when you look at a 30% occupancy rate, you don't just cut restaurants and entertainment 30%, because entertainment's not going to be open. All the shows that are a huge driver of income for the on-strip casinos. And then the restaurants are only going to be partially open, but it's not going to be necessarily the restaurants that everybody wants. One of the things that drives people to some of the casinos is the multiple choices of restaurants, any style of food. And Russell, you're in DC, and you know that driving down DC, you can get any type of food from the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I went to DC, and just the, like, you got Mongolian next to Ethiopian, next to Irish, next to burgers. I mean, it was really eye-opening. Like, I didn't know that country had food when I was a kid, but whatever.
Russell and I had Nepalese food, and it was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
but that was
vegetarian.
No, there was meat.
There's meat. Yeah, no, actually, Asian work wife is from Nepal, so that I was like, ooh, this is special. But yeah, 30% does seem low, and I think people.
Well, I mean, during a good time, what is their occupancy rate? Because it's not like it's 100%.
92 to 94. I think.
Really, that high?
Like their peak levels is really what they're pushing. I mean, they'll shout out 98 or 85s depending on what it is. But that 92, 94 is that's prime summer months, and all that kind of stuff is across the board. Because they'll segment it from Strip versus all of Vegas, and then the peripherals of Summerlin and Green Valley. But Alex, you know a bunch of that stuff.
Was the casino, who was it, MGM that owned Caesars? Or they bought Caesars?
Yes, I believe that's the family arc now.
What's the deal? Were they brilliant to sell that 6 months ago now? Or like fluke?
I don't know. I mean, it's, I was here back in 07 to 10, and I was in real estate then too. And the amount of shuffling that went on then, I think where the companies will show to be brilliant is by finally laying everybody off, so that when they do hit their new norm, that they're at 20% less staff with the same amount of occupancy and increasing revenue with less people. I mean, they did it before. It's what's happening already.
Yeah. Well, but that's an interesting topic too, because, it's like, okay, companies, when they're doing good, the idea is, well, shouldn't they give that to some of the workers, right? And so isn't that what they do? They hire a bunch of extra workers. Oh, I lost him.
Well, it was nice talking to you, Luke.
So Luke, hey, look, I guess I said something you didn't like. Well,
you were too bullish on Vegas, and he didn't care for that.
I was too bullish on Vegas, and then he just said, I don't want to talk about this. This is too hard for me, so I'm leaving. Oh, fuck off. God almighty. What is going on? This is so unacceptable. Look, I got a new
bunch of amateurs running this thing. Whose iPhone?
I don't know. Who is iPhone?
I don't know.
I thought it was Carly, but Carly's on. I wonder if it's some fucking stalker. You know,
you say stalker like it's a bad thing.
That's the problem of my relentless fame. You know? I get people that just... What happened? He's not coming back.
Did you text him?
I said, did I scare you off by asking tough questions? Okay, here he is.
There we go.
Oh, we got a chat going on.
Yeah.
Thank God Russell is here. This would be boring with just Alex and me. Was that you, Russell? Are you in there? Are you in twice?
No, I'm not iPhone. I don't know who iPhone is.
It says from iPhone. This would be boring with just Alex.
Yeah.
Oh, me. Oh, Alex in his pink shirts. I don't blame him. It's probably like Nate Cross. Some fucking goddamn it, Luke. It's Eric. That's who it is because he sounds like a prick. Okay, Luke is having technical troubles. You know, Luke did like 70 flips last year. You'd think he could, yeah, he's a beast. Like, I try not to sell the show with like, I don't know how such smart people are friends with me, to be honest. They must not be that fucking smart. But I try not to sell the show on credentials because, well, there's just so much of that in this world that, you know, I preferred that if my hope is that you could get some small portion of people where it's like, look, okay, Alex and his pink shirts and his shit talk and his nonsense. Like, okay, fine. But if I bring together smart people, I will ask tricky, I don't say always difficult, but I'll ask out of the box questions and we can have a high concept discussion about big ideas. And those ideas, the smart ideas, will rise to the top.
Well, it's funny you say that because I did this big thing last night with our REIA. We did like a panel, and I was talking to Kevin before it, and Kevin was like, what topics do you want to hit? And I'm telling him, and Kevin kept saying, you really need to dumb this down.
What do you mean? Dumb it down how?
Just like all the concepts I was talking about or the terminology, he was like, you got to dumb it down because no one really knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, I have that problem where every time I learn something, and this is like, it's a double-edged sword. It's a total double-edged sword. Every time I learn something, I assume, because I'm so humble, I assume everybody already knows, and I'm just the last one to find out. And then so that's a difficult position when you start. It doesn't matter when you read self-help because self-help is bullshit. It matters when you read economics or philosophy. And you know, you read a few Nietzsche and you're like, oh wait, no. I'm not everybody reads this.
Sorry guys, I had to go get a refill. I'm back now.
Is that a piss break?
That was a random computer update that just shut it down. So
Windows is like, we're helping you out right now.
I got this.
Okay, back to the thing about the workers. So let's say the casinos come back and they hire 20% less staff, which would be terrible for the local employee market. I can't imagine the complexity of how that affects things. But isn't the idea that when companies do well in the market, that they should trickle that down to they have some responsibility to their stakeholders, right? Their employees, and they should trickle that down. Now they're going to get a bad rep no matter what. And some companies do stock buybacks and things like that, which,
Right.
it's difficult to say, but I'm sorry, I'm getting to the point. And so, but when things pull back, right? Employees are the biggest expense. Employees, the union is what took GM out in 2007, partially. And so isn't that like the natural course of things? They overhire when things are good, and then like they cut fat when things tighten up.
Yeah, and you take a look at these larger corporations, and their responsibility isn't really to the employees; it's to the stockholders and to the right. I mean, it's and to the upper level management, the golden parachutes, making sure that they're all taken care of. Because without them, there's not a company. So
Yeah, but
it doesn't really trickle down. It doesn't, and it's one of those tough things that we want it to, right? We want everybody to be taken care of and done well, and if they had a reserve for contingency plans and all that kind of stuff, so that they could keep the employees on. But even if they had the employees on right now, they wouldn't be doing anything, and they kept them for a while. But it allows them to weather the storm and at least come back. We're hearing every day about more companies that aren't going to be coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a different world when this is all over.
Maybe.
Wow, this is like, we're dark. Is this always this dark? Do we ever have happy stuff? Like,
oh no.
Talk about the Muppets.
I have a friend in Las Vegas named Jason Ramis. You'll meet. I'll make sure you meet him one day if you haven't met him.
I've met Jason.
Smart guy, not an idiot, but like anything, and he's articulate. But anything you say, that guy can make it worse. Yeah, he's just like, he's talking. He's like, the first week I talked about this, he's like, man, there's gonna be food shortages. It was like a month ago, 2 months ago. There's gonna be food shortages, there's gonna be mayhem and riots and all this stuff. And I was like, damn, dude, like, that's the first day, man.
I ran out of my best tequila. I actually went to my wife and I ran out to the Total Wine to see if we could pick up a couple bottles before this thing. And so now I am in a dark place because I don't have my best tequila.
That's what was the state that I read they're going to start allowing the ABC to deliver?
We already have alcohol deliveries here.
Oh, do you? What was I looking at then? Oh, maybe it was LA.
Yeah. It's got to be West Coast no matter what it is, right?
We've they allowed alcohol delivery here from the restaurants. But what's been happening in my neighborhood, which has been kind of fun, is there's one restaurant that has a window that opens up as a bar, and so everyone's just going there and then walking over to the park to drink instead of drinking, right there. 6 feet apart, though, right? Oh yeah.
It's such a weird thing. Like, the restaurants all closed down, and so what I noticed? The gut trucks, food trucks, all over the city, like in the parking lots, and there's people lined up, like for days.
The only restaurant that should deliver that doesn't.
Right. It's the weirdest. I swear, like people have lost they've lost their sins. It's just, I guess it's my fault for thinking they ever had any. But it's a bizarre state of design. Like, oh, we're going to stop doing this. It's like, okay, hang tight. You're not.
Yeah, it's really amazing how many people are completely losing their shit.
Luke, do you notice that? Are you what's your Facebook? I don't know who you know. We don't have that many overlapping friends.
Not any at all.
I'm glad you're here. You're fucking ball buster.
As far as people doing like the end of the world, I don't know what's going to happen. Let's do
more so than worry, but I think it's the people. I guess Russell and I've had this conversation before, where it's like, yesterday, and I use that term loosely, yesterday they were like, hey, stay focused, success, 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 get in the game, grind, entrepreneur, it's up to you, focus, focus, focus.
Yeah.
And then COVID-19 hits and it's like, that's all they post about, COVID-19. Worry, scare, fear. It's the opposite of focus. It's shiny bouncy ball against about,
And some of these individuals, their job, right? They're syndicators. Their job is to take money from investors and instill confidence in them that they can give a good return on that money. And these people are turning so quickly to being batshit crazy. I'm like, I would never give them money after seeing the way they're responding to this crisis.
Yeah, and I see a lot of that at all different levels, and I think it's pretty funny because people, well, it is, right? Because for a lot of these people, especially like the segment that you just really discussed, where they're talking, about entrepreneurship and like they're usually selling something to be honest, right?
Yeah.
And then their sales stop because people tighten up, and now all they're talking about is the fear things that everyone's tightened up for, because now they're afraid, because now they're not making money because they haven't reacted in a positive way, or at least changed their sales pitch. So it's affecting them even more negatively, besides just reading negative news, which I really try not to do. And they just get so laser focused in all the negative, they don't do anything to do anything positive for themselves. Alex, I'm an investor, right? I haven't bought a house in over 50 days, which is like, problem.
That's a lot for Luke. That's a lot. If anybody's not on Luke's Facebook feed, that's a lot.
And if you look at my feed right now, like, I don't have a lot about houses on there. I mean, I'm still shuffling inventory and wholesaling deals and things. But I'm spending a lot more time on my construction company, because people aren't buying and selling as many houses. They're still doing it, but my construction company is booming.
Is it because people are inside more and now they're looking on their house going, hey, we should fix all this shit if we're going to be spending time looking at it?
Yeah. And they think, hey, we're not selling anytime soon. Let's remodel the kitchen. Let's build a casita so that we can work from home or have a spot to lock the kids in.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Does this, I'm asking you a really big, well, I'll start it with a big idea, but does this change home ownership for those who are well-to-do? Meaning, there's a bunch of people in the United States that lost their jobs, but there's a lot more that kept their jobs, and now they just work from home. And a lot of those homes are going to be jobs are going to be permanently remote. And now they have more money and they spend it at home. Do we see the rise in offices, like tricky looking offices or luxury offices in more regular sized homes? Do we see a change in design because of this, that people to say, I'm going to stay home now more?
Yeah, I really do see this as a cultural shift, and I think it's going to carry through for a very long time. Russell, what do you think on the home selling and buying front?
So I've been thinking for the last year to 2 years that home offices were going to start becoming more and more of a desirable feature in homes. And this is accelerating that shift, I think. I just, during this whole thing, decided to give up my office at my office building to, I really don't need it. I have to work from home anyway, so I gave it up.
Yeah,
really?
We will not be renewing our lease on our building. We'll end up buying something for our construction business, but I don't know what we're going to end up doing with the brokerage. The brokerage might end up becoming a almost virtual brokerage. I don't know. It's all going to be different, and we're just seeing what the clients and the people really want.
I'm in the middle of buying an office building.
Good time.
Contrarian for life, bro. Do you think that virtual, it's not the same. Do you think we lose something as a culture? Do you think we lose something? I mean, do businesses run worse when they're all virtual?
Yes.
Alex, what type of book do you like? Do you like a paperback or do you like a digital?
I like Audible.
It's a lazy man's book.
I read about 50 books a year. Go fuck yourself. And then I write reviews. And then I write reviews on most of them just so you know I ain't lazy. I know what's in that book.
But no, I mean, going to that example, right? It's
What book were you going to recommend?
what book would I recommend?
Were you going to recommend a book? Why'd you
No,
ask
he was
that?
trying to make the point between hardback and softback and
digital,
virtual,
right? It's just in the business and workforce. It's the same thing, but it's very different, and it resonates with people differently. You will have it as a business when you go from storefront to and whether it's retail or whatever, when you're in a enclosed setting with coworkers and clientele, it's going to be different when you're virtual. You will have different people that are able to do that and function at a better level, and that business model is just very different. The same people will not function as well that were in a brick and mortar versus in a virtual. It's just so different.
You prefer in person, I assume?
I do. I've always been a personal kind of guy.
Something about the body language. You can't replace the body language.
Yeah, it's even talking to people because when I'm out, because I've been doing more of our taking care of like our flip clients on the construction side of things. I'm wearing my mask, and it's like there is just so much expression that, and I mean the eyes do a lot, but it's like, I'm thinking to myself, can they see that I'm smiling? Let me smile bigger so that it really shows in my eyes. I mean,
and then you look like a crazy person.
Yeah. And then I have to sneeze and then just run.
Yeah, I haven't worn the mask yet. For that exact reason, people think I'm selfish and all these other things. And this is an interesting conversation. And I understand that argument, and I understand how the risk scales in that me not wearing a mask creates disproportionate risk for a very small concession. From the virus perspective, but nobody talks about the change in culture and the damage, right? 1984, me and Russell, I talked to him about 1984 all the time. That's one of my favorite books. And that's a book about they took away the culture to suppress a people. And so you're taking away humans' ability. I mean, look, goddamn, you're getting my blood pressure up. Mother Nature took a couple of million years to develop your biological instinct. So when you look at another person, you can read their something like 90% of your conversation is body language, right? And that something like 90% of our communication is body language. And so if you take away this, right, and it's muffled, it's like you're doing damage to the social fabric. And I think the unintended consequences of that are extreme. And I don't want to participate so easily. I understand why you would, to make people feel at ease, but that is not my style.
Well, I think the futuristic documentary that is very truthful, WALL-E, will come to light for everybody.
I haven't watched it. I got to see that.
It's the Disney or the Pixar movie right for kids, but Earth goes to the dumps, and everyone's stuck on a floating spaceship, and they're all on their little hover chairs and drinking Slurpees, and yeah, you would like it actually.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I've heard so many times like about this because of this event. I've heard this WALL-E thing. I gotta go check it out. I know the premise. I've seen like the opening or something of it.
Yeah,
I've never seen the movie. I don't have kids, so
That you know of.
the only cartoon I watch is Rick and Morty. Okay, so you guys both track sales data for your respective markets. Can you give me? I'm not a realtor, so give me some insight. What do these two markets look like?
So DC's inventory levels have gone from the suburbs are at 1 month of inventory, and the city itself's like at 1.8 months. I think active listings for a 30-day period in the city dropped from 8 or 9,000 active listings down to like 4,000. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing for sale here, and there's been a drop off in buyer demand, but the drop off on the supply side has been so much more drastic that, I'm still, when I'm writing offers, I'm in multiple offer situations. I just sold one property 30, 40 grand more than I would have been able to sell it for 90 days ago. It's kind of a weird, bizarre situation.
Yeah, it's the numbers don't tell the story. It's now that those numbers are great for inventory levels in Vegas. In the last jumping from middle of February, we were at 1.7 months of inventory, which is pretty low for us, and we're at 3.52 as of today.
So your inventory levels went up.
We're jumping up, but it went from 5,800 houses to 6,000 houses. We're just not getting the sales. So, we've been in this now for, depending on which number you're actually looking at. So we've been in it for 60 days, 45 days, all that kind of stuff, right? So we're seeing that the sales tick has definitely gone down. Now, one of the numbers that I do track is contingents, right? Because I want to see what people are doing. And I look at overall contingents or pendings, depending on your market. So I look at the total of them, but I also look to see what's happened in the last 3 days. How many have gone under contract? And even though the inventory levels are going low, right? Because people don't want people coming into their house to look at it. They know that they're not going to buy something, so they're not going to sell, so they take it off market. But the contingents are telling you what's going to happen, and that's where you see the little blips and the little bit quicker response to what consumer confidence actually is. It's interesting because the numbers are, they tell 5 different stories depending on which way you're looking at them.
So we can figure out that iPhone person is from Vegas because they said that they agreed with you. Contingencies in Vegas are through the roof in the last 15 days.
Yeah, some of the realtor license too. I wonder if it's like Jay Miranda or something. And I'm trying to think. The problem is anybody who would be friends with me would be certainly find it hilarious to troll me. Like none of my friends would be like, "Oh, I'll give Alex is a nice guy. I'll be nice to him." Like, no.
Get a painting, loser.
Yes. So it could be anybody. That's the kind of friendship I curate with people. But yeah, the data is interesting. And, I try to, I love this guy, Nassim Taleb. I can't go a single conversation without talking about him. And, he has this overall philosophy that most people try to take data and extrapolate too much from it. And they fool themselves by largely randomness and bias. And so I'm not saying that data is not important. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, we look back on 2007 and we think, well, it was obvious what happened. There was poison in the mortgage-backed security funds at the highest levels of the Fannie Mae. But it wasn't obvious, not at first, right? It took them like 2.5, 3 years to figure out what happened. And they're trying to fix it meantime. So the data, I think, like you said, it paints a bunch of different pictures because everybody's sort of operating with this high volatility. Some people are, I think you're seeing the extremes of personalities too. Like some people are like me, like, hey, look, don't get too excited. We don't know what's going to happen. This might blow over. So don't do anything rash. And then other people are super rash, right? And then you have everybody in between, like a guy like Neil, who's like, I just want to sell my house because I bought it in 2012. It's at the top of the market. This might go bad. Let me just get rid of it while I can. I need the money, but not so bad. And so, there's there's so many stories in between.
Yeah.
And I'm very, I can understand what you mean, but the data shows volatility, which I think is correct.
Yeah, and you have to definitely always take data with a look at the general public, the consumerism, so many different factors. Right now, unemployment, and the crazy thing is, with so many places of business just doing furloughs, right? So they're not actually unemploying people, firing people. The data was so skewed, and even now, so many companies are keeping people on payroll. They're not fired. They're not really getting that full unemployment, so it doesn't really go into that. Well, we're up to 36.2 million or whatever it is right now. It's such a greater number. In 07 to 10, when you looked at the unemployment numbers, it was, I mean, we were tracking the, because I was doing my appraisal business, that is my main thing, right? We were tracking the, Alex, you probably know the acronyms better. So there's the unemployed, the underemployed, there's under 25 employed.
Oh yeah, what is like the U10 numbers?
Yeah,
total
U10, U6, U2, U4. I mean, and it's really looking at it because it doesn't tell the true story. If somebody's so lazy that they're not getting off their butt, they're giving up hope. You know, that true unemployed number isn't reflected in the government stats.
Well, that's why the unemployment rate, which came out, what was it, last Friday? It's usually the first Friday of the month. I think it was the second Friday this time around for some reason. The unemployment rate at just shy of 15% is actually considerably lower than if you were to extrapolate from the initial jobless claims, because of the initial jobless claims, a high percentage of those are not looking for work. So therefore, they're not counted in the actual unemployment rate.
Right.
So it skews what our view is of what's going on.
Yeah.
The unemployment rate, well, look, people fuck with data all the time. They misuse it. They misunderstand it. And then I also, well, I'm a bit of a cynic, to say the least. And so they're using it against people as expectation management. And so the unemployment level before was like, 4.3%. It's like, what does that mean? Because not everybody has the same job that they, like you said, underemployed, these types of things. And then it can't calculate the guy like me. Like, I'm unemployed, but I'm not looking. Right? Because the economy's so good. and then they do this audacious thing. I just can't believe, they say the media, but well, it's like the people eat it up. I think it's like if you have a delicious cake, right? It's like, yeah, it's poison. And it's like, yeah, but people won't stop eating it. Fuck, I got to sell it to you. Jesus. Like McDonald's, exact perfect example. It's like, stop eating that. Stop buying it. The media does this thing where they go, oh, unemployment at 25%. Oh my God, it's so bad. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, you sent everybody home. You told them to stay home. And then you tell me, then you flood the waves with unemployment's high. It's like, it's artificial. You told everybody, you forced them home. So the data right now is so skewed in that regard that it's next to worthless.
You know how much people can make by being unemployed right now, right?
You know Spencer, Cornelia?
I know the name. I don't think we've ever actually met in person. We've had back and forth.
He doesn't drink, so you probably haven't met. You've met him for sure. But he's working at a company. They furloughed him, and he's like, he's an interesting story right now. He's been working on YouTube for 3 years, super hard for like the last year, and he's making good money from it now. Like more than I used to make as a career. Like he's making good money on YouTube right now. And then he gets furloughed. He collects unemployment. He goes, I'm making more now in unemployment than I was at the job. Yeah. Plus the YouTube income. He's like, I don't ever want the country can stay closed.
Yeah. I mean, depending on where you're at, right? It's like $36,000 to $48,000 a year just sitting because the U.S. government giving you $600 a week plus your local unemployment. And
yeah, Maryland, it comes out to a little over $1,000 a week with the extra 600.
Yeah.
I keep wondering, would I be eligible for it if I stop making sales? Like, I could use an extra $1,000 a week for doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because you look at I mean, the job's got to be really sexy for somebody to say, I'll get off my ass, spend my gas money, wear and tear on my car, not get to play my video games, and go work. People don't want to do it.
Well, you've incentivized. I mean, look, capitalism works on incentives. Like you've incentivized them to stay home, and I mean, this is the argument that the hyper conservatives make against. Well, it's not even that. This is the argument that they make against socialism, and I don't want to get into that debate. Well, I will, but I don't. That's not my point. This is the argument about socialism. Like, you shouldn't give people money to stay home because it incentivizes them to stay home. And like the idea is complex, but when you literally pay them more to stay home, they're like, when the money stops, right? People are gonna be like, fuck that. We know you can pay us now. Just fuck. They don't understand that that it's dead. They don't understand the government.
Somebody has to work eventually.
Somebody has to work. Yeah. So they have no idea that it works on debt and this thing's going to explode. I mean, we're not even in capitalism or socialism anymore. We're in a whole new realm of made up money. We're literally playing Monopoly right now.
Oh yeah.
Just print that shit. Don't worry about it, bro.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite lines from Simpsons is where Homer tells Lisa, communism works in theory. In theory.
Yeah. And so, like, you know who's really good at communism? The Indians, the Native American Indians. Yeah. Right? Like, here, these bushes are for everybody. But what you don't get is you don't get iPhones, you know, and you don't get Netflix, and you don't get Toyotas, and you don't get PlayStations. And so, like, people like communism's easy. Just live on the land and share it with your friends. It's easy.
Yeah.
I like that photo. I keep sharing it on a bunch of conservatives' Facebook posts. It's like a Newsweek cover that says we're all communists now.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyways, it's an interesting time when I've never seen it, and it happened so quick. Well, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. I really hope Vegas opens up. I know there's an immense amount of pressure on Sisolak and the
going back to one of your earlier comments, did you see his press conference? So it wasn't the last one, it was the one before, where he basically said, hey, this is the time for everybody to learn a new job, right? Don't depend on tourism anymore. We can recreate ourselves and not be a tourism state. Oh yeah, I'm serious. It was crazy.
Doesn't he? Sisolak is a douche. Somebody says iPhone. Is it Ricky? Who is it? Goddamn. Yeah, I think the thing about politics is politicians rather. The thing about politicians is they're like a double-edged sword, right? Like, they represent their constituency, and so they say things all the time. It's like, God, I wish you didn't say that. It's like, yeah. But it's like the states that have all the coal plants, and they're like, they vote against the climate change, the solar bills, and all this other stuff. I'm like, you guys are douchebags. Like, I have a constituency. I'm not representing ideals. I'm representing people. But Sisolak represents the biggest, as far as I know, gaming industry, certainly in America, maybe on Earth, next to like Macau.
But they're Nevada-based companies or Delaware, whatever. But I mean, it's Macau feeds Vegas.
So how can he come out and be like, we're doing something else now? What are they going to do?
I think it was more of, hey, stop your complaining and do something about it. Go.
Well, that's
right now. And it's like,
that's an interesting point. Did you guys hear about this? What's up with this chick in Dallas who opened up a salon and they arrested her, and then they promptly let her go because my guess is they knew that we don't really want to go to court over this. This is going to be bad press and bad legal.
There was an old barber in Detroit too. Or I think it was Detroit, old white guy. And then they go, oh, and now he also has COVID or whatever you want to call it, Corona, COVID.
I think there was a bar in Denver that did the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, but I guess that's my point. Like, everybody, I don't want to use that term, everybody. How many people are sitting around waiting for permission when the government's kind of shown their hand? They don't have any, the tides come in, they have no clothes, that kind of thing. Like, they have no legal recourse if you, especially now that they've said no, if you're like, hey, I'm going to work I'm going to open my shop, and like, well, you can't. It's like, well, I'm peaceably assembling my dissent against the government. Now you got to, that's the first rule of the United States. The first, they put it first, right? I can show up and say, fuck you if I want. And so, okay, I don't want to make a big deal about it, but my point, I guess, is like some people just need to stop waiting to like, hey, can I have permission to have my life back? Just go do it.
I'm not leaving. I'm just getting an ice cube thrown to me.
Just go do it. Is it the Star Wars ice cube? I'm really I was not jealous until he said it was a Death Star. Now
I want a Star Wars ice cube.
They're in forms and everything. So I got my son throwing me a cube or a sphere.
See, that's why I need kids, so they can bring me booze.
That is a tough overhead for that's a low return. Welcome, Ceci, my friend Cecilia, and I don't know who Justin MacBook is, and I don't know who iPhone is. Some scoundrel from Las Vegas. Yeah, well, look, I have people that are wrong about technology. I have a wide variety of friends. Some of them like Apple, and they're dead ass wrong.
I'm going to send you all Excel documents.
You what?
I'm going to send you all Excel documents, like from Excel 95.
I use Google Sheets now, okay? From Excel 95. Wait, wasn't his computer just updating? He must have had a Windows machine. So, Russell, did you read the Fed notes?
No. I just read the headlines that the world's ending, I guess.
Yeah. Luke, how much do you keep up with the Federal Reserve news?
Say that again.
How much do you keep up with Federal Reserve news?
Not as much as I used to back when I was an appraiser. But why are they sending at me more money?
They are not. They're causing inflation to the money you have now. That's for damn certain.
Oh yeah, that's why I keep all my dollar bills under my bed, because that helps with inflation, right?
Something like that.
In case anyone's listening, it's the complete opposite.
It doesn't go into M1 when you do that.
I am very sarcastic, to say the least, I guess, especially when I drink. But
you don't have to apologize for your personality on this show. Everybody.
I just want to make sure that in 3 years from now, I don't get an email from somebody saying, I kept all those dollar bills under my desk and asked.
So actually, that is something interesting to come around to. So I have a larger than normal cash cushion right now because of the fear that maybe I need this cash if
I do too.
Sales fall off the cliff. But we're going to have huge inflationary pressure over the next decade because of all this money printing. We printed as much money in like a month that it took us to, from 2007 to 2010, we increased the money supply by about 5 trillion. We did about 4 trillion in 1 month this time around. That's crazy.
Inflation is like a ketchup bottle, right? And so the problem is you don't want low inflation, you want some inflation. But the problem is what they've been doing, and they've been doing it for a while now with the artificial low rates. They've been trying to manufacture the inflation, and it's like a ketchup bottle. And so you, right? Nothing, and then what? Too fucking much. Yep. And then hyperinflation. Read your history books, folks. There's never been good for anybody ever since the dawn of anything.
Or just look at Venezuela and Argentina right now, and I just came
Venezuela. Zimbabwe is a really good example.
Yes.
Oh, Zimbabwe is always the textbook example, right?
Everyone there is a millionaire, right?
I have a special place in my heart for Zimbabwe because I did a whole bunch of research for it in college, and I knew a couple of people from the Zim, as they call it, and I knew a guy whose parents had to flee. They were white farmers, and the government was like trying to basically, well, it was racially motivated. They wanted their country back, and so they were doing this hyperinflation and spread the money around in weird ways, and they basically ran all the farmers out, and so he fled to the United States. It's an interesting story, but anyways, yeah, hyperinflation is gonna be bad, good for nobody, and then you have on top of that, whatever the debt is now. I can't count as fast as they print out the trillions. It was 100% of GDP. Now it's like Jason Scott said, he goes, I'm not worried until it hits 150% of GDP. And I'm like, well, we're at 105.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were really there already.
We went from 100 to 105% in like, well, and when we get the new GDP numbers, it's actually going to be higher because of the drop off in GDP, which we're not counting yet.
Yeah. And if you look at what China actually reported, and if you think that, best case, it was only double as bad from what they did for those 3 months prior to us even reacting. I mean, it was crazy numbers.
Yeah.
They dropped. Gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was. They reported that they dropped 8% or something like that. Which
they haven't reported a loss in 30 fucking years.
Right.
Well, 8% is a big drop off, and for the second largest economy in the world.
And that's only what they reported.
Yeah, that's only what they reported. And so, and to be fair to China, I don't think the U.S. is. I don't think that we're that. I think we lie too. Maybe not as much.
Oh, if there's a government, there's a lie.
Yeah. Cheers.
But no, there are necessary lies in government because people. I can't remember which movie it was that said that. I think it was actually Men in Black. Where Tommy Lee Jones, the line, right?
The first one.
Yeah, a person is smart, but people are stupid.
Yeah.
En masse, people are just dumb. The general public is stupid, fear-mongering people, and they need to be protected. A person is smart. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
like all my great stuff comes from fiction, by the way.
At the end of the first Matrix movie, he's like, we could unlock all these people, but man, it might not be good for them. Yeah. The Fed, though, I think they've been compromised. Well, they were compromised in 2007. They didn't learn their lesson. I think we're doing the exact same thing we did in 2007. In fact, what I think is happening is the message that I've learned from 2007. Ben Bernanke wrote a book. I read 13 Bankers. I read Paul Volcker's book, and the idea was they've all convinced themselves that they saved the world. My brother's convinced of that, and in some ways that's true. But there's a cost, and that cost may be hidden, and that cost may be sometimes the pain is a worthy lesson to learn. And so I see now, or I guess the message that they took from 2008 was, well, we should have acted faster, and we could have done less damage. Which is an interesting narrative, but doesn't necessarily make it true. And so my thinking now is that they throw the money at it because they wanted to get ahead of this thing. But again, they don't know the unintended consequences.
Well, I think they think by spending huge amounts of money really quickly that they can jumpstart things quicker for when we get past this. And I think they're reacting too quickly to things. Like, what they put $1,200 in like people's hands. Like, what's $1,200 going to do?
Well, they spent $5,000 per person, and everybody got $1,200, or everybody. Some people got $1,200. Where'd the other $3,800 go? That's what I want to know.
I didn't get any.
Right.
I got nothing.
So, but let me ask you this: it's more like. Well, Luke, what's your position? Was the economy, and I use that term loosely because it's a ridiculous thing to ask, the economy. The stock market was overpriced. Were houses overpriced? Were we due for a correction overall? I know that's an impossible question.
I'll just stay silent then.
I think it's too general of a question, right? Like,
it really is. It's there was segments that need to be corrected, and all through this uptick journey from 2010, right? There have been corrections, and they've been sporadic. There wasn't a a singular stock market 7%, 10%, 15% drop and then correct and restructuring. That never happened. But you saw regional corrections. The one that always jumps to my mind is in 2016, the San Diego real estate market had a correction. I had real estate investor friends there that were gambling on appreciation, like, oh, this is going to keep going up, and it flatlined for almost 8 months. And I mean, really, when a real estate market flatlines, it goes down because of costs associated and things like that. But we saw that in a lot of different places, not just real estate, but from manufacturing and global import exports, even the Chinese tariffs in August. There were these correcting indicators and things like that. I still think, yes, the stock market was poised for a drop. The overall consumer confidence was too high and not obtainable to the levels that people thought was what was actually happening, right? But I don't think we've corrected enough also. it's right.
Well, that's my point. So I guess I think there's an ideological problem that this country has right now, in that, you know, the argument a few weeks ago, the news cycle was, should we save the economy or the people, which is a ridiculous argument, right? And then, okay, but it's like, you know, people in this country have behaved recently as if they're entitled to not lose anything ever. And so they don't want to lose their stocks. They don't want to lose their job. What's that?
Recently? But keep going. Sorry, I interrupted.
They've had a really good chance to express their entitlement recently, more so than usual.
They've had the ability to express, and that's why we're reacting so fast. Russell, you said this earlier. We're reacting so much faster for things because that's the world that we're in. We're in a completely different world right now, where we have to answer immediately. You go back to the New Deal and so many different things that have happened over the last 150 years, right? Since the Civil War here. And, you know, it was going from telegraph and trains and then to, you know, phones and slow emails and mail systems. And now it's instant. Everything's instant. So we have to act faster. And that's when you act so fast and not on a true rational thought process and debates and a back and forth. People want answers and they want them now. You're bound to make wrong decisions.
That's a good point, actually, because the world tends to move slow. Well, actually, sorry, I didn't mean like that. I mean, I was surprised you said something smart. So no, but yeah, I do wonder if that's a piece of the puzzle, in that, you know, maybe they should just let some of the chips fall where they may and scoop it up where there's like, hey, look, this really got hit disproportionately. Let's fix that. Instead, people go, I love this. This was amazing to me, right? March 16th, about 60 days away, 6 days ago, about when it really hit. And like, everybody, like, oh, we're going to send everybody home. Let's start sending out rent payments. It's like, hang on a second. You're already assuming that people won't have the money and they won't be able to scoop it up in 2 weeks, right? And so, like, there was no payments missed before they had cut the checks.
Yeah,
we hadn't got to April 1 yet. So I think they almost manufactured a problem. They didn't manufacture the problem, but I mean, Jesus, it's 70,000 dead, which is not. It's not that I'm unempathetic, but it's coming up on almost a quarter of a. It's coming up on almost 0.001% of the population. And so you've largely manufactured certainly the outrage of it, the spectacle of it, and then you created a real solution to the spectacle. And I just can't see it going by and I mean, the debt has to be addressed at some point. There's damage done.
Or how about the fact that we're bailing out the airlines? So over the course of like the last 25 years, there's been something like 30 major airline bankruptcies. One of them declares bankruptcy every single year because the margins in the business is so thin. So why did we have to go out and say to these companies that we're probably going to go bankrupt anyways at some point in the near future? And if American Airlines goes bankrupt, those planes don't just disappear. Delta comes in and buys them. And
Oh,
buys the routes. Like, why did we have to save them?
just coming from Argentina, most major airlines fly into Buenos Aires. Within the country, it's all state-run airlines now.
That's what we should do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on, big brother, take care of me.
Well, no, look. It's like this. This is a capitalist country. I'll tell you some hardcore capitalism. Okay? They should subsidize and state-run like they do the buses, right? It should be state-run or it had to be federally run, but it'd be poor, right? It's like low budget. Don't fucking complain. We're gonna have state employees. It's gonna be awful. And if you have any money, you pay Delta, who will have a more right. Like what Delta has a problem with is like they want it to be cheap because they want to get people around, but so they undercut their prices. They stuff people in there. It's a terrible experience. And they're like, we're just trying to transport people. Let the fucking state do that. And then they can focus on margins and a better customer experience. They make all their money on first class anyways. They don't make any money on coach.
That's what I was going to say. Have you actually ever looked at the numbers on what the profit margins are? And first class is anywhere from 6 to 18 seats. And on average, it pays for 70% of that flight. I mean, like the month. And now that all being said, I fly first class. I'll admit it. I like it. I pay for it.
But this is my point, right? It's like it should be. I mean, okay, I'm going to paint with a broad brush and say this because I thought about it, but I haven't really thought it through. It should be socialism for the poor and capitalism for the rich. Well, that's how it should work. Right. So it's like, look, if you can pay to play, go to Delta and go on the luxury thing. If you can't, you get to go to usgov.fly and it's going to be horrible, but you'll get there.
Yeah.
It actually might make the airlines that exist more profitable if it's a whole plane of first class. Then they can offer those first class passengers a little bit cheaper than what they are now. Because I do look at particularly the short flights. Do I want to upgrade when I'm only going to be on there for 2 hours, or do I want to, suck it up and be uncomfortable?
Yeah. And about 15 years ago, it really still was that way, where it's like it was like another $100 to grab one of those first seat.
And now the difference though is like $250 jumping up to like $7,000, $1,800. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And in some areas we have that, like we have WestJet or Jet Suite out here.
I love Jet Suite. Well, I've never flown them actually, but they seem dope.
And it's just an easier experience, and you got to pay for it. It's about 100 to 300% uptick from a normal airline ticket, but it's so much nicer, and it's really all dependent on the person. But I mean, I think one of the things that is always the difficult thing is you look at what's fueling our future, what's moving us forward as a society, or even not just a society but a country, and giving like let's just give Elon Musk $1 trillion and say create everything that we need, right? And you find 10 of those people, 15 of those people, in the long run, it's going to be cheaper. Let's get the R&D development going and figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, they've given him some money. They gave him money for Tesla in 2007. Yeah. They helped him out, and they gave Solar City some money. And look, they pay him SpaceX. The government buys a lot of SpaceX on the capitalist model. They pay him a lot. I think. Look, Tesla. as a profitability business, we can debate. As an idea, obviously, I like it. As a profitable business, I'm extremely skeptical. But
I'm not saying it for the, I'm saying it more going back to that, if you want to call it the socialism model, right? Where, hey, this is for the public good. This is where we get the airplanes that everybody can fly on for $50, and it's economic and good for the environment and everything in between, right?
I understand your point, and I don't disagree with it. The problem is, you have the government doing that right now. They're picking winners and losers, right? And so it doesn't work so fucking good. And so the problem, it's like, yeah, Elon Musk, great bet, but what's the next guy? And then we're not going to agree, right? Because who decides who we get the money for?
Especially if you look at what Elon Musk looked like when he first started off. He doesn't look like the same guy that he looks like now. He looks much better.
Because he got his hair.
Yeah, and hair and a girl and some kid named something you don't even know how to say. But I don't.
So if I start the next PayPal, I can have hair?
Dude, have you seen the pictures of Elon Musk from 1992 when he sold PayPal? He was bald as shit.
Yeah.
And now, he don't have it as good as me, but he's close. And he's 55, 60 almost.
Is he that old already?
I think so, yeah.
What am I doing with my life? Jeez.
Hey, so Matt here is asking if he should buy apartments with his stimulus.
Oh, Matt's a douchebag. He buys apartments every week. He's a smart ass. He was on last week. He's just being a smart ass. But I do like the participation.
Yeah, with that $1,200, it's
what's the deal? The super rich are getting these bailouts. The poor are. When are they going to take care of the upper middle class?
I don't think any of us are upper middle class anymore, to be honest. That namesake has disappeared.
The middle class was an illusion, was a fluke. There is no economic principle. There's no reason an economic middle class should exist with the way human nature is. It was a fluke because, well, two things happened. We had a country to industrialize when everybody else had we had a new country to industrialize. And then we were the only people who didn't get blown up during World War II. And that's it. And those things are not going to come back. And so I think you're going to see the divide between rich and poor to continue to exacerbate. A book that I love on this called Thomas Piketty wrote a book called Capital in the 21st Century. It's long, it's dense, it's technical, but man, is it brilliant if you can get through it.
Well, unfortunately, when we have these sort of growing disparities between, the upper and the lower classes, leads right to populism, which we are experiencing now in both parties. And then populism eventually leads to things like people's heads on pikes and riots. So it's not a good thing.
No, I'm not.
I'm just saying it's, there are signs of, these are historical signs of things that have traditionally turned out very poorly in history, whether it was the fall of the Roman Republic or the French Revolution. These things always turn out badly.
My son was just studying social classes within societies across the years. And so I really kind of broke it down to him. You had the slaves or serfs, right? And then you had the merchant class, the landowners, things like that. And then you had the monarchies, the church, and things like that. There's really only been three classes, and I mean, if you want to subclass things and base it on percentages and things like that, there's always three classes, and you work on the backs of others underneath you until you can be at the very top.
Yeah, but the idea I think in America is that the middle class is that people think, and I'm speaking for a lot of people, so I may be wrong, but it seems like the middle class feels like it's in the middle. right? If you had a bell curve, then most people would be in the middle, and that's how it should work. But that's not how it works. It's totally
No.
skewed, right?
No,
And
you're
so it's
only
like
talking-
the overwhelming amount of people are poor, and then like the middle class is like right here, and then the rich is this super long
Right.
tail of
It's not 33%, 33%, 33%.
Yeah, it's like 90,
Yeah,
8%, and then and then one, and then
that's really what it is. It's the way it works out, and it doesn't matter if we're in America or if we're in any of these third world countries that are on an uptick or downtick. Really the percentages are very similar. It's crazy. I travel a lot, and I go to a lot of different places, and we try to expose my son to a lot of different cultural things, and get off the beaten path when we travel. So it's not like, hey, we're in another tourist district, let's go get a cheeseburger and a pizza.
Dude, one of the best things I ever did in my life was go to Afghanistan. And when I say, I mean, I did it. I didn't volunteer. I volunteered, but only after they made me. But people in this country, it's good to have that reference to realize that people in this country have no fucking problems at whatever. They have no problems. No problems. You want to know what poverty is? Not in America. You have no idea. It doesn't exist here. And that was very good for my mentality. And it's healthy to see that. What's the statistic I throw around all the time? If you earn $30,000 a year, United States dollars, 30,000 US, you're in the top 1% global.
Yep.
And like
we were in Belize, and we got a private guide for the day. Basically, let's go. We went over to Guatemala. We did some things. So basically the private guide he was paid from a service to just drive us. And my son knows what we do as far as real estate and flipping. He's 12, and he's experienced things. I've taken him to job sites, and he's helped demo out properties even and out, because I want to have him get a full experience. And at the end of the day, we're on this 3-hour drive back to our house that we're Airbnb-ing, and the guide says, "Hey, do you want to come over to my place for dinner?" Because he knew we weren't happy with the lunch choice, and because it was let's go to the tourist spot that everyone else goes to, and I'm like, I didn't want that. I wanted, where do the drivers go to? What does everyone else experience, right? I wanted the real stuff. And so he took us to his house. And his house was a 1-bedroom or 1-room above an auto shop and a little convenience store, which was really just like a window. And his wife made us, like fried chicken and puff bread and beans. It was delicious. It was great. It was wonderful. We really appreciated it. But we're in this where they live with their children, and the stuff that we throw away in our flips and our remodels would have been so good for them. But there's no system that is even close to cost effective for us to just send extra plugs and switches down to them. I mean, it's crazy, right? They had drywall in half the place. They were really nice. They charged us for dinner, more than we would have paid at a restaurant, but it was cool. We paid it. We would have given them a tip anyways. Yeah.
Is there a charitable way? I wondered that though. Is there a way you could set up an infrastructure to, like, you set up a point, a Habitat for Humanity store down there, and you get a once a month. Fuck, but I feel you though.
I looked at after that trip. I really started looking into it. I didn't find anybody that had anything that actually made sense.
Yeah, it's gotta be so hard, because what do you do if you clean out? I don't know what you do. What do you clean out 5 houses a week or more?
At our peak, that's what we were doing. Yeah.
So you clean out 5 houses a week. It's like, well, look, a house is more than one truck in and of itself. So how many trucks do you have going down there to give away stuff, right? There's no cost effective way. You'd have to do it as a charity, but even then it's like, ugh.
Well, and even just looking at it on the charitable option, it doesn't make sense for it doesn't pencil for any charity to do it, whether they're shipping through 7 different countries or they're driving or taken by ship. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, logistics are brutal.
So it goes to the dump for us.
Yeah, which then also, I mean, that's a whole other.
Cheers, boys.
Yeah, okay. He'd love Jason Ramis. Goodness gracious.
But we had an amazing time in Belize.
I bet. I got to travel. As soon as I wanted to travel more last year, and I'm a lazy piece of shit. And then, and now this, and I don't like going anywhere alone though. So I got to find some friends to travel with. Russell, what are you doing? You want to go to the whole planet with me?
Yeah, let's do it.
I can stand you. That's the problem. It's not that I don't have friends. It's that I need somebody to go like, hey, do you want to go overseas with just me? Just you and me. No, there's no escape. Like, nope.
Do we get to share a bed and cuddle, or?
I'm down. I shared a bed with David Perret at the last 2 conferences I went to.
Oh yeah.
I was in the Army. Like I'm.
Yeah, usually I take a guys trip with my friends. We usually do it every November, but I think the past couple of years we've done 2 a year, one in November and one in the spring. So we just did Vegas right before all this happened for our most recent one.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're there. Luke, do you go to conferences?
I haven't done much over the last couple of years. I and of course, this year was the year where I said, you know what, I need to get back into it, because I used to do a lot, all different things. Whether I was, I think I used to speak at a bunch of things, but even just showing up as a participant, right, as an attendee. But it was on the list to start hitting more of them this year because I wanted to get back into it.
Yeah, I wonder if BPCon will end up happening or not.
It fucking better. They hired me to be the photographer.
Did you get a deposit?
I did not get a deposit.
Ask for it now.
Are they paying you for it?
They're gonna pay me to be the photographer. Yeah. So I have a very interesting negotiating strategy. Okay, so I get to Denver for I was out there for best ever conference, actually, the multifamily conference. And so I went to Denver, and BP's headquarters at Denver. And so I love BP, so I stopped by the headquarters and I saw Scott, Mindy, and all these people. And this girl, Alexandra, fantastic human being, she's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you. Let's get coffee." And she said like 3-4 times before I got there. And I was like, okay. I just assumed they wanted me to speak because I'm fucking brilliant. So why wouldn't they? Right? So she sits me down and she goes, "I want you to be the photographer for the event." Caught me off guard. And so my instincts came out, and I told her, fuck no. I was like, no, absolutely not. God, why would you even ask me that? No, hell no.
I'm not your pony to ride.
And I said, she goes, why not? I said, because I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to do it for free. And if you pay me, then you're going to get your grubby hands into my creativity, and I don't want it anywhere near that. And you can't afford me anyway. And then she made me an offer that apparently she can afford me. And so I gave up all that.
Just like the $1 Million Man says, everyone has a price.
Yeah, I gave up all my principles and I said yes immediately. And so now I want to do it so bad that I don't want to cancel it.
It's amazing what you get for $7 and a cheap bottle of scotch.
I know. It was basically like, hey, look, we'll pay you enough to buy a new camera lens. And I was like, sold.
We'll give you an ounce of weed.
That'll do it. That'll do it. I miss Las Vegas too. I gotta get a guy now. Weed's not legal here, so you gotta get like a guy, like in the old days. It's a miserable situation.
You don't have the app Weber or Weeder?
Allegedly. No, I don't. I'm about to. I'm about to.
Find your local drug dealer.
Is that really a thing?
No.
Oh, I'm looking it up. You fucking jerk. What the
Oh,
heck?
well, I don't know what it is here because I'll get it from a friend when I want it. But there's an app that people use here to get it, and they come deliver it to your house.
Blackbird. In Vegas, it's Blackbird, but it's legal. You pay right. You have to pay cash. You have to pay cash because the system, you can't put in the bank.
Yeah, nothing federal.
Right. So you got to pay cash. So when they show up, you got to have cash, which I don't, but I will. It's still better. I mean, because in Vegas, like, it's an interesting city.
You know what's great about that is you have all the technology, but you still have the old school drug dealing ability of cash transaction. Like, hey, we're modern. Weed is legal now, so you can buy it, but it still feels like a back alley kind of transaction because we want your cash.
I will, but what's interesting, actually, more than that, is that that's only for the legal side. The illegal side, all the drug dealers take Venmo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for a long time, when I had friends using Venmo for things, I was like, "What are you, a hooker or a drug dealer?" Because it was all the drug dealers wanted Venmo.
Yeah. So it's only the legal.
And then Venmo became like acceptable.
Yes.
I've got tenants that pay by Venmo.
Yeah, if we're doing a sports betting thing with some friends, like a Sweet 16 bracket or whatever, it's Venmo. Venmo the main guy, right?
Yeah.
Technology, wonderful.
Technology. What's next for you, Luke? What are you plotting during this?
I'm not traveling.
Are you plotting anything big during this event?
No, a lot of our efforts are going straight into back to our brick and mortar construction business. We're bringing back local. We're still doing our national wholesaling. That really hasn't changed. I mean, it's changed on the way we're doing it because we know that everyone that's buying is buying at different criteria, but so many things really have changed, and I don't know what the long-term picture is. All I know is that we're doing everything we can right now to keep our core group of people working, keep our families taken care of. We've battened down the hatches because I have a business partner in all of my ventures, and it's us and our families first, our employees second, and it's what can we do and how much of this can we foresee and make sure that we're moving in the right direction. And honestly, every week it kind of changes.
What about you, Russell?
Yeah, so I've been building up this cash cushion just in case. Just waiting to see how things shake out. I mean, it's kind of just a holding pattern, keep working. I was probably selling on average the last year 3 houses a month. That's probably down to 1.5 right now, it's looking. So that's probably cut in half with the transaction volumes dropping everywhere. Yeah, just a holding pattern, see how things shake out.
What is everybody's bets on this will all be over by November 6th?
Not going to be. This is a long-term thing, both in everyone's region, differently in everyone's region, and differently nationally and internationally. It's not going to be over.
Yeah, so I mean, it depends what you mean by over. Will quarantine be over by then? Yes. Will the consequences of all this be done? No. That's going to be a 24, 36 month process before everything shakes out from this, I think. We've got
You think there's long-term You think it's long-term cultural change, though? I mean, we've had.
I think that's probably a little overblown, but I do think that there's long-term economic impact, not just from the debt, but we're hastening the bankruptcy of so many businesses and sectors that were heading that direction anyways. But instead of things like these retailers like J.C. Penney's and Kohl's and those type of retailers dying out over a decade, we're making it happen in a 6-month period instead. And then that obviously has the domino effect of, well, that's commercial real estate. What goes in those places, if anything? And that's why I think it's 24, 36 months, because it's going to take, the dominoes will fall slowly. And so, whatever these effects aren't going to be fully realized like in a few months.
I think everyone really needs to watch either the original Planet of the Apes or Omega Man. Basically anything with Charlton Heston in it. And just figure we're there in 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my solid game changing advice. I'm actually going to be hosting a webinar on it. I'm going to charge $7.99 for it. And we're just going to watch old videos. I'm prepping.
$7.99 by then is going to be, not that much money after all the inflation kicks in.
$97. It's $97 right now.
Yeah.
So it's $7.99 then. I mean, I'm planning ahead. I got this, Russell.
Luke, I've had this idea for 10 years in my head. I'm going to share it with you. So it's a long time now we knew that malls were going to go bankrupt. Right?
Yeah.
Or I mean, close to it, right?
That's
Certainly
the direction we've been heading for a while. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, hey, look, the malls we're going to have to repurpose those malls, and we don't know what the fuck to do with them because they're huge. And obviously people don't want to go there to buy shit as much. So what are we going to do with them? And so I had this idea a long time ago, and there's flaws in it, but I'm sure that I think there's ways around them.
But can I spend like a half hour just talking about the flaws? Because I love that.
Yeah. There's flaws that I know, but I'm at the point now where I've fleshed out a lot of the flaws. I actually need solutions to this, but I think this is a good idea.
All right, let's hear it. Pitch me.
What if we filled those malls with Connexes and made them tiny homes and made a mall a quasi self-sufficient like a city?
So there was a place that did this, wasn't there?
I don't believe that I've had this idea longer than them, but I do not believe that. I believe that my idea has been vindicated by other people trying it since. So yes, I do believe that this has been done, although I don't know I'm not an expert in their results.
I do believe that it has happened. Just like Russell said, I think it has happened. Now, I think that Auntie M's pretzel stays open in this model, right? And Orange Julius, maybe not hot dog on the stick though.
I think we make Auntie Anne's the centerpiece, actually.
So this is what I wonder in this scenario, is this me being in the DC bubble where we just have immense wealth in this part of the country? Because we've just been tearing down our malls and rebuilding. They're not repurposing them; they just tear them down.
No, you can't do that. See, you guys don't have sprawl. You don't have sprawl. Like Vegas, I don't know. Vegas got a weird market too because they don't have sprawl. They have hey, just cram somebody in. Hey, there's not enough room for a house there. Like bullshit.
Vegas will end up being a non-sprawl market eventually. We will run out of room because we're really a cup of a valley. DC is limited land space, right?
No, because our growth is actually it goes like this, like out in all directions. So like basically the city's built in the mid 1800s, and then we have a ring. Every ring around the center is the next decade.
Yeah.
But the idea is,
and we're not on the ocean, so we're not locked by land until you go pretty far east.
Yeah, the amount of functional space that a traditional mall has, right? And when you look at the traditional mall starting in the 1970s, right? And then in the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, and when the open air malls really kind of started, didn't really take off till the late 2000s. The 2000 really they started coming to fruition at the last recession, because it had to be a change. But there's so much land that is in a traditional mall, and it's just not functionally used because it's you're typically not taller than 3 stories, and you have such a large parking space, and
Parking is one of my big worries.
Yeah.
Parking, it's like, what do you do with all that?
Well, you look at the Raiders stadium coming up here in Vegas, and the amount of parking. That's why the casino owners being on board with the stadium was so important, because they're going to have to park at the casinos.
What are they going to do, Luke? Jesus, what are they going to do if they park at fucking Luxor? Are you going to walk? Are they going to build a pedestrian bridge?
I believe that they actually planned for all of this ahead of time, because you can't go to the game. Nobody's going to be there. Parking's not an issue.
Yeah. Fixed it. Just COVID-19 this problem away.
Yeah, because the mall that's closest to me here, I think it's been going vacant for several years now, and I think Amazon's buying it to turn it into. They're tearing it down to rebuild something there.
Well,
distribution center, maybe.
My thought was maybe not in a city like mine, but in a city like Raleigh, where you have an old mall that's going like, what's the mall in Vegas? Is it Rainbow?
Meadows
Mall. It's like, dude, tear that thing's dead.
They just announced a mid-rise apartment complex right next to it.
That place is dead, right? But you can't afford to tear it down yet. But what you could do is you could stick 200 tiny homes connexes in there, and then you put in a small grocer, a gym, a salon, or a barber shop, whatever. It's like you make this thing a little self-sustained. I think you could probably put in more than 200 units in there. And I just think to myself, I haven't ran the numbers or anything, but it just seems like the mall's going to die anyways. And you could do the same. The argument can be made like fucking Kmart is gone, and there's these giant stores all over the country. It's like you could do the same thing with them.
Just take the square footage of any building and then minus out 25% of it for common areas.
Yep.
Right? Have you seen the movie Ready Player One or read the book? Because it was a book before it was a movie.
I've watched the movie, but I haven't read the book. It's fiction, so.
Yes, but so they're in Ohio, and they call it the stacks, because they've got RVs and mobile homes all stacked on top of each other. I'm talking like 20, 30 stories high kind of thing. And that's what this principle that you're talking about, it really ends up being, right? What area can we stack enough people in that it actually makes sense?
Yeah, I'm definitely talking about making a slum. I mean, inadvertently. Like, the idea is good, right? But it's totally like, I don't know your example, Ready Player One, but I know the example of Judge Dredd, right? It's Mega City 1. It's like, this is going to be awful.
Yep.
But, it sounds good at the time, right? Cram all these people up there in a big, self-contained city.
Hey, as long as I don't have to live there, maybe I own it. That's cool.
Yeah, right. I just want to stay on top. My helipad and an escape route in case she gets haywire. Okay, this right here, this is bad in 10 years if this comes out and that shit happens and you're like, oh, you fucking evil villain planned that.
We gave if you're listening, we gave you the groundwork on how you need to be that 1% or even the 3%. You'll be good with the 3%. Don't shoot for the 1, be the 3. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is why income equality is the way it is.
Yeah, well, income inequality is.
Well, hey, hang on. So for me, it's 6:40 on a Friday night. For you guys, it's you guys are 9:40 on a Friday night.
Yep.
And we're doing something positive, sharing information. This even though we're not getting paid for it, this is work, right? We're putting in the extra time and hours.
Let me ask you about that. let me ask you about this, because you do this. You do basically the same thing I'm doing right now. I think maybe a little bit more, maybe a little more formal, a little more structured, rather.
Either way, I'm drinking.
You know, I don't fucking try with this thing at all yet. It's more like, one, it's habit, right? I know that it's like, hey, look, if I go too much too fast, I'll give up. I'll be like, oh, it's too much work. And that's what I do in my podcast. I gave it up because it's a pain in the ass. This is like, look, I like drinking with you guys anyways. So the idea is, let's drink on Friday nights and talk shit and just publish it. And like, maybe we can, like, I started doing the templates for the photos now. Like I put the little, that takes me 5 minutes now because I'm like, okay, I just on Photoshop.
Yep.
I mean, you know what you could do though, like if you really did want to do something with it, but then it costs money, is send it to someone to edit it down to a watchable length, not 4 hours. Right?
Yeah, I have a few of these that are 3.5 hours that I upload to YouTube with no editing and just.
Yeah, I may have been on one of those as my wife was in the next room sleeping that night and really pissed at me.
So the problem, that problem is twofold. One, yes, what I'd love is to have somebody that's watching this. Nobody on this list is going to do it. What I need is somebody in my corner who's like, look, I'll take ownership of this thing and do this with you, and do some of the production side. But the problem is, like, you have to get some views out of it that it makes to make some kind of return. The other thing I really need to do is I need to take the audio. I need to strip the audio and put it on a podcast, because this is much better as a podcast than is it. Nobody's gonna watch a 3-hour YouTube, but they might do it as a podcast.
Yeah.
But you're right about getting someone else on board to take over those other things. So I remember sometime last year was at some conference, and Jason Scott was actually talking about how he has all these little strategic partnerships because he can do X, but doesn't want to do Y, but he still wants to do the project. And so he has these little strategic partnerships where he gets the other person to do the parts that he doesn't want to do. And it seemed like really genius to me. And so like, then I started testing out and doing that. And now I get, Kevin Leahy, he's the producer of the Bigger Pockets podcast. He runs the REIA I wanted to do, because he wanted to start a REIA or a meetup and couldn't get people there. I'm like, well, I can get people there. I just don't want to do any of the other work. So like finding those strategic partnerships, do these little projects, can have a really good return.
The biggest thing in any of this is that you have to add value to someone, right?
It's got to benefit both people. Yeah.
No. It's when you really look at it, if you're adding value to somebody, you will benefit eventually. And that's the way I've always been. And so I've written a couple books now. I've done lots of events in Vegas on my own dime. And really it ends up being, I'm sharing and helping people. And I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. I believe truly in my heart, I believe I'm going to get something out of it eventually. So I'm going to give my heart to it, and I'm going to share as much as I can, whether it's putting in time to write a really good book that shares information and value to people, or putting on an amazing event where anybody can come to it and be part of it. And just putting that out there, it's you talk about the laws of reciprocity, or I probably had too much tequila right now, where to remember that the Alex, I know you know the different books and all these different things, but
yeah, you give first.
You put it out into the environment, and it comes back. It comes back 3-fold, 7-fold, 10-fold. It doesn't matter, but you don't necessarily know how it comes back. That's the way I've always been with my sharing on any of my social media, education things like that. So if you are going to create something, create it, right? And put your all into it. Don't worry too much about how much it's going to come back to you. If you really believe in it and share to the fullest, something's going to come back.
So I agree with that position wholeheartedly. In fact, I turned down more money than I should because I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Just here you go. In fact, Nate, it's on the call right now. Nate and Ceci, like these are both people that we're all friends because it's like, look, if you reach out to me, I'm going to give you everything I have it's just my nature. And so, okay, I believe that to my very core. So when I bring this up, I'm not saying, hey, how can I monetize this? What I'm saying is, hey, look, I guess I wonder is, this is fun. So I don't give a shit if it becomes anything. I don't care. Like, this is fun. Hanging out with Luke. Like, Luke, you and I, like you said, we've been friends for a few years, but this is the most we've ever hung out for sure. Russell and I have been friends for a long time on the internet, and we've hung out more and more over the years, and that's just the nature of internet friends, I think. And so I just like hanging out with you guys. I don't care if anybody watched or not, but it's easy for me to hit the record button and then upload it and kind of see, like, does somebody else value this? Because
this
if
is great
somebody
though
else
when
doesn't value this, then I want to, for the same reason you're saying, Luke, not for monetization. I guess it's a self-doubt. Am I providing value? Because if I am, then I will work harder to make that more accessible to more people.
Isn't it great though when you're doing something you love and then figure out that it is monetizable? So I love arguing with people on the internet, and I run my whole business around that now.
Yeah, Alex, I think what it comes down to is no matter what your opinion is, somebody else is going to have that same opinion and they're going to resonate with you. And they're going to find value in your words. And the difficult part of all of this is getting your, it's not even a message, just getting your voice out there. For no greater cause of just connecting with other like-minded individuals, and that's what I view this as, and that's what I've always viewed my sips and flips or local events or whatever it is. I'm just trying to connect with similar people because you want to find what people you like hanging out with, people you like talking to, and depending on what level you're at, you don't want a bunch of sycophants. You don't want a bunch of mentorees. You don't want a bunch of doubters. You don't want you want to find people that
your people
you're happy to be around with, right?
That's what Desert Rat was. You remember you came to one Desert Rat event.
Yeah, I got to one. Yeah, that was fun.
And so I love staying up and partying till 3 a.m.
I don't.
I do.
But look, I like, now Desert Rat is at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, always. And that's for a reason too, for the exact same reason. I also like people who are fucking committed. And so not everybody is willing to show up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday in Las Vegas. Some people are still doing cocaine at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
They do that 7:50 to show up at the 8 o'clock.
Here. But my point was exactly right. It's like, if you're willing to show up, right? Like, I have a polarizing personality. I don't know if you fucking noticed. So if you're willing to show up at 8 a.m.
looks to go with it.
So if you're willing to show up at 8 a.m. on a Sunday, to me, that brought me immense peace. I'm like, these people, they're willing to, they're my people. Because if they didn't like me, that they had the perfect excuse. Fucking too early.
I'm gonna start doing a 7 a.m. in Vegas just to show.
Yeah. 6:30 a.m. So anyways, I guess I'm just going through this and I'm like, look, I've been doing this now. This is 7th time, which it's been about 2 months. And I've been doing it for a while. This is kind of how my podcast started. My podcast started with like, hey, look, let's just have these dynamic conversations. Somebody will find value in it. And it ended up being a production nightmare. And so then I came to do this, where it's like, just record it and put it up there and don't do any production. And now I'm going back to where it's like, hey, look, some of these conversations are interesting. But what it would be ideal would be if I could, like Russell said, have an editor, maybe not to cut it down to a usable piece, but to go grab 3, 2-minute highlights and use that on social media as like,
What points people towards the product? Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's like I gotta throw money at it right now, and I don't want to.
It's not even money; it's time. Time really is your biggest asset,
and that's where the strategic partnerships can come in, right? So we're getting ready to launch the podcast here with my business partner on it's a podcast producer. Like, so that makes things so much easier.
Yeah, that's what I need. I need somebody who yeah, you're right. I need somebody who I can get to buy into some of my creative ideas and be like, look, can you help me with some of these productions? Because I have these creative ideas and I can get on podcasts and I can get on there. I can talk to people, but then doing the production, I can do it, but it bogs me down because it's not something I love.
And it's time consuming.
Time consuming. I'm not great at it. It's like, dude, you got to learn a hobby. You got to learn this whole new subset of skills that you're not good at.
Well, it's like the criticism I gave for you on those videos, which are awesome. One of them was that you're not in the video enough, and that's because you're taking the video. You can't be in two different places at once.
He was in too much of the video is my criticism.
Oh, interesting.
No, it comes down to. So I've been in this business for a while, and not meaning real estate, but the social media marketing, all that kind of stuff. And so many people say, "Oh, you got to do what you're passionate about." You don't have to be passionate about it, but you at least have to enjoy it, right? Enjoy it enough to do it, and have some sort of knowledge about it to share and add value to others. So you have to figure out, is this something you want to do? And this isn't just for you, Alex. It's for anybody that's still listening after this 2-hour rant that we've all gone on about all different things, right?
I got some people.
And saying, what do you want out of what you are doing? And this resonates across all manner of business. It's not just real estate and entrepreneurship and marketing and drinking and whatever. You don't necessarily have to be passionate about it, but you have to have some knowledge about it and be willing to put in the time and effort into it, and maybe search out a few people that are better at it than you, so that they can help you with it. They'll get something out of it, because otherwise they wouldn't necessarily be willing to help you with it. But you put in the time and effort to make something happen and follow it. But it doesn't have to be true passion. So don't think that. It's so many people push that, and I get so frustrated with that. Like, you got to find your passion. No, just find something you're good at. If you're good at something, it'll make money, and then with that money, you can follow your passion with that.
Mark Cuban says, "Don't follow your passions, follow your efforts," which I think is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I mean, I like my way of saying it better, but Cuban's okay.
Cuban's okay. Cuban I watched a bunch of interviews with him. He likes his book by Ayn Rand called Fountainhead.
Yeah.
And he rants about it all the time. Not all the time. I read a bunch of interviews where he's like, that book just psychs me out. And so I read it, and it was brilliant. And I always bring that up when I'm around Russell, because he fucking hates Ayn Rand and he hasn't read the book.
Dude, I've read it.
So hang on though, but I guess my original point was, like, I agree with everything you said 100%. I think the thing I have to cross the threshold was I have to find somebody that's not in my direct social circle to see this and say that there's value in it. Because some people that just like my style, or the guests, or they like these topics, they'll sit there and watch, and I'm grateful for that. But like you said, you got to be careful for sycophancy, which I'm not a big fan of. And so, is this, if I can feel confident that there's value in it, am I providing value, or am I just bullshitting with friends and it's just a narcissism machine? And so if I can feel confident there's value in it, then I can sink more effort into finding somebody to help me with it.
If you put your beliefs into it, there's going to be value into it. So I wrote the Flipping Blueprint about 3 years ago now. And I've got 194 reviews on Amazon on it.
Huh.
That's pretty good, right?
I think I'm one of them.
I think you are. And if you look at the most recent review I have, because it's not because I'm so egotistical, I want to see that my words are that important. I mean, there's a little bit of that, right? I wrote a book and I tell people to go read it. So there's a little bit of that, but I wrote it to help people. And that's really what I ended up doing. I didn't know if it was going to help people. And I wrote a second book. I don't know if it's going to help people. I think it will. I really, really think that both books will end up helping people. But only time will tell. And it all makes it so that people have to take action. And whether it's a book or a podcast or whatever it comes in the future, a YouTube channel or a Facebook group or whatever you make out of it, it's your genuineness that comes through. And it's a pretty big fucking world where there's going to be people that resonate with you, and not everyone's going to be, right?
Yeah, I'm not after everybody. That ain't my style.
And I don't even think about the people that don't resonate with me. I don't even worry about them.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone has to think about is, you know what? So somebody doesn't like you. Somebody doesn't like your haircut. Somebody doesn't like you wear a pink shirt. Who cares? That I'm not even going to give them a second thought.
Hold the phone. Hold up. You're saying crazy talk now. But I love your argument because my position with why I wanted to do YouTube, I'm like, I'm going to be YouTube famous. And I say it just like that because it sounds ridiculous. But then I say to people, I'm like, yeah, but hang on. I know that sounds stupid and obscene and arrogant. But let me just make sure that we all remember that Honey Boo Boo has a show. Honey Boo Boo has a show. I can have a show. I believe.
Wait, what time is it?
Yeah, so who is Prime Equity Solutions that hopped on the call?
That's one of my boys.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was asking. Is there? So okay, now we're testing the field right now. Is there value to this besides just my social circle? So now we're finding out. He's been here for 15 minutes. So apparently we're in there.
So my book, the Flipping Blueprint by Luke Weber,
which you can buy at this following link below.
Yeah. Let me put the link.
Here's bookstore, yeah. Find bookstores everywhere.
So it's been out for 3 years, and about a month and a half ago, I got a shout out from somebody that said, "Hey, I just saw your book and was on this person's top 10 list of real estate books to read." And I took a look, and I just kind of like I googled myself, right, real hard, and I found the book on a whole bunch of lists that I had no clue about. And different, and when the book first came out, I did people's podcasts and things like that, and I track how many it sells weekly kind of thing, but I really didn't, like, all of a sudden I thought that, right, I saw that, holy cow, there's a whole lot of stuff out there about this, and that's pretty cool. Like my words are really helping people, and I like that, and that's why I put them out there, to help people. And Alex, you're doing this to help people, to make people think, that have a little fun too, right? Because if you're not having fun, why do it? But what and Russell and I are on here to have some fun with you, and it helps us. Anyone that comes on to a video host or podcast, virtual or audio or whatever it ends up being, is on here to kind of boost their presence. But I wouldn't be on it if I'm not. No, this is me personally, because there's other people that do different things. I wouldn't be on it if I'm just not here to have fun and share genuine things. There's
Yeah, I
plenty.
thought you'd say no, actually.
Is that why it took 7 episodes to get to? And you didn't even ask. I kind of like, hey man, like I do this drinking thing too. You do this drinking thing. We do this drinking thing together.
I thought you'd say no, actually. So
Why? Why would you think that?
well, one, you do your own thing. You do your own drinking show. And two, I don't know. I don't know you. I didn't know you that well. So I was like, well, he just probably sees me talking shit on the internet. And you're a really nice fella. Do you remember the time that lady was just driving me fucking crazy at your meetup? And I literally had to walk away with her with extreme prejudice, anger. I was like, get away from me. And then she comes right up to me. And I'm like I'm like gonna strangle this chick. She was just infuriating me. And Luke sits there nice. He's like, hey lady, how you doing? My name's Luke. Da, da, da. And I was like, me and this guy, we are polar opposites.
What was she doing to upset you?
She was being incredibly rude. I don't think she was being rude on purpose. Like, I'm rude on purpose to mess with people. Like, I'm not obtuse. Like, I understand. I'm being rude. I say it on purpose to like poke people I have my own little way. But she was being blindly rude. She didn't understand it. And then so she's following me around. What did she do? She came up, we were having a conversation, and like me and the boys, and we were having this conversation where like in the middle of it, she just walks right up and she starts handing out business cards. Hi, I forgot her name, but anyways, hi, I'm master networker so-and-so. I'm master networker so-and-so. I'm a master networker so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, well, we're in the middle of a conversation, and she just came in and dominated. And I was like, you threw the whole flow off. And so she started.
I remember it clearly. Alex was, he looked at her and he's like, do you know who I am?
That is not what I said. I was like, so I walked away. I was like, this lady's driving me bananas. So I walk over and I talk to Luke, and I'm like, Luke, just fucking calm me down. And Luke is like, dude, this guy's calm as a Hindu cow. Every time I met him, he's just chill. And he's had no problems in life at all whatsoever. And so I walk up to Luke and I'm like, just, what do you guys got going on? Because I need to get my mind off of this thing. And then boom, she's sitting there right behind me. And I'm like, lady, I'm going to strangle you. And Luke reaches over. He's like, hey, how you doing? Welcome. This is my event. Blah, 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 blah. And I left because I couldn't take it. And so I was like, dude. And so I say all that to say, I'm like, dude, if I invited Luke to my event where I'm like this little thing and we're drinking, I'm like, oof. He's going to also, that's all I can think of. Like, he just remembers me being a loose
Well, it is
cannon.
interesting because at these events, you have to be able to pick out the people that you know you can't talk to. And all of these events have someone like that. I remember when I went to go speak at Darren Sager's REIA up in New York City, he was like, whatever you do, when you go to the questions and answers, don't call on that guy.
You know what? In those situations, when I'm at an event, whether it's my event or I've been invited to somebody else's, I am giving 100% to that event. And it's like, you know what? I am giving my all. Now, if that person after the event, the next day comes and tries to say, hey, you know what? You said this, but I really think this. I'm going to say, okay, well, great. We all have our own opinions. I'm not going to get into a big 3-hour debate and try to convince them to my view. But when I'm at events, and I've been paid money to be at events, Alex.
We got a badass over here.
Just having fun, bud.
Yeah.
And I've paid large amounts of money to have my own events. No matter what it is, I'm giving my all. And when I'm talking to somebody, I am truly focusing on them. So in these kind of environments, right? We got me, we got Alex, we got Russell. We're all having a good time. We're talking to each other. We're giving each other 100%. We've got these onlookers, whether they're right now or they're looking digitally later, and then they're following up with us. But I know that I'm giving 100% right now to my audience, which is you guys.
I'll be honest, I've not been giving you guys 100%. I just wrote a counter offer while we've been on here.
I'll be honest, Russell. I know, and I got an email already ready to send you. I'm kidding. It's one of those things. It's understanding why you're at something, right? And what you're going to do, Alex. When you came to my event, you were a guy showing up and coming to network and talking to people, and maybe finding some friends, finding some people to do business with, and things like that. But me, if it's my event, I'm hosting. And if one person says shit about my event that I'm hosting, what's that going to be? So I don't care how. And I've had some really bad people at events, like awful. But I'm still smiling.
I went to an Outback meeting once. Cameron Christensen was there, and I think Gary was there.
Gary Vaynerchuk?
No, Crawford, GC, Gary Crawford. And so
I've got a Gary Vee story, by the way, after this, but keep going.
So there's this guy, you probably know him, but I don't know his name. You'd recognize him. And he's sitting there, and he's a wackadoo, weirdo dude. And we're sitting there, and there's somebody talking, right? Like there's somebody at the event talking. There's probably 80 people there, 70 people there. And we're at Sunset Casino. Sunset? And Suncoast. We're at Suncoast, where they have Outback. And John Lee asked me to take photos. So I'm there with a camera and a big lens. Right? Like a camera and a big lens. And I'm sitting there taking photos. So and it's a big white long lens. Like while we're sitting there, like I'm taking pictures. And so this guy's got the service dog. I've seen him before. I talked to him briefly. And I look around, dog's looking cute. So I look down there and I do this real quick. He's probably 20 feet away from me. He's probably where my dog is, farther than my dog is now, right? And so take a few photos. And he looks up, he's like, don't take a picture of my fucking dog. And so I couldn't help. The first thing I did was take more pictures of his dog, right? Oh yeah, sure. And he gets up and he's like this, and he throws his chair back and he yells, right? Like there's 70 people, like somebody speaking. He's like, "I'll fucking kill you." I was like, I'm laughing, right? I can't help myself right now because I'm like, dude, like, what happened? That's so bad. I was asked to take pictures of the event. It wasn't like I was.
Were you having a bad hair day?
Never. Never. Cameron Kitchens walked me out. He's like, don't even. I walked like past the front of the speaker and everything. So
my 12-year-old son is sitting up here just laughing at that story. By the way, it's okay. You can swear. He's never heard a swear word before. He doesn't understand what those mean.
Yeah, bleep, bleep, bleep. Yeah, but yeah, people at events, man. Like most of them are like 90% of them are cool, and then you have that D customer.
So Alex, you've never been to one of my paid events.
I can't afford it.
So I mean, like my events are free, and I give out booze and food and advice and time and all kinds of stuff, right? But when you get to the paid events, and people like are so, I paid whether it's $300 or $30,000. They're like, no, I own this guy. Like this is.
I bought you.
Yes. Wait on. That's not what's happening here. For my stuff, I will, and I'm like right now I'm doing a virtual class with a buddy of mine where he asked. I came out of retirement to help teach wholesaling with his group. So I've been speaking a lot more lately than I have been in a long time. And like if somebody's rude, I'm like, just give them their money back. Like I don't want to deal with that garbage. Like
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, we had someone at one of my events, and our events are free, and we're having some technical difficulties getting the speaker's laptop to work with the overhead projector. Yeah, this one guy. No, it was
another time.
It was like another time. And this one guy comes up to me. He's like, "Well, when are you guys going to start and stop fiddling around with this stuff? I was like, this is free. You don't have to be here.
Yeah, that's they're people are so self-entitled, and we're not just saying this to complain to anyone that's still listening, but it's just to understand that for people that truly understand that we're giving something and we're trying to help you. That's really what it comes down to, is like
and most people are immensely grateful for
it's certainly
when you put on these events. It's just always like the one person who likes to bitch and complain that really sticks out.
Yeah, it's hilarious. The amount of stories, it's crazy.
I do find though, since I've started putting on events, that it is like very exhausting. Like the next day I am wiped.
Oh yeah. So I'm doing so our classes we're doing virtual now. We're doing a month long every Wednesday night, and it ends up being about 2 hours of me speaking nonstop. And it's not just, this is one thing, talking with a couple buddies, having some drinks, and whatever comes up.
Yeah.
But when you are being paid to educate someone, the amount of energy it takes to speak for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it is exhausting.
Yeah. Because now you have to deliver value. Here, I'm like, just show up, Luke. We'll have a good time. No pressure. I have no.
And when you're at these events, especially in person, for me, like just talking to and you want to talk to everyone, but like talking to 40 or 50 different people, and there's so many people, one right after the other. You don't remember who any of them are.
Right. And one thing I do, Russell, is so a lot of people will ask things of you. What you have to do, you have to ask things of them. Put it on them. You know what? The best way to contact me is on Facebook Messenger. Shoot me a message, send that deal over that we talked about. And 90% of the time, they won't take action.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to put it on them so that you don't wake up the next morning thinking, shit, I got to do all these things.
Oh, yeah, I don't do any of that. Yeah. It's just exhausting that next day after. I got to decompress the day after.
Yeah. So I used to do like 4-day events where I was on for 12 to 16 hours. Oh, it was brutal.
How would you rank yourselves on
number one?
I love Luke. I love drunk Luke.
69.
How would you rank yourself on the scale of extroversion?
Stay away. Olive oil? What was that?
I didn't get that.
Russell got it.
I'm pretty low on the extrovert scale, so even more that that sort of plays to why I get exhausted talking to 40, 50 strangers in one night. I like it. I think I actually enjoy like the events that are not my events better, where I can talk to 5 people and get to know them better than 50 people that I don't ever get to know.
Yeah, it's I would say, but at heart, I truly am an introvert, right? That's the real question. I'd rather hang out with my family than you. Right?
Well, that's why they're your family. Otherwise, we'd be family.
But I understand the benefit of hanging out with you. But if you're not going to put the effort into that relationship like my family is, you know what? There's going to be a stopping point. Just like my dog barking in the background, we just ordered this thing that we can buzz to make him stop barking. I want to do that with potential students. like, no, I'm done.
He hears it. What's that? Yeah, I mean, I totally get that about people. Like, I think the frustration comes from people will ask for your time because it's easy. It's a low barrier to entry when they're in front of you to ask a lot, but it's a high barrier of entry for them to do anything. And so it's much easier for them to ask. But then because you're a nice fella, and the three of us, I think, are nice. You guys are certainly nicer than me. I think, well, the idea is that we're all three of us like to give. And so when somebody comes up and asks you, your default position is, well, yeah, I'll give you whatever you need. And so it's a difficult problem when you run into a situation where somebody's easy to ask, but you have to maintain the position that I can't care more about your future than you. And so people will ask, and then you default to, yeah, of course I'll give you whatever you need, but then you're not going to do anything you need to make that happen. You want me to do the bulk of the work. And so you run into frustrations. Are you calling me? What do you? You just stopped and took a phone call right now. What you got going on, Russell?
Tomorrow I get a photo shoot for a flip we got coming to market sometime next week. This was kind of an interesting thing. So I switched brokerages and then switched back within a 24-hour period. So that was interesting.
That's fast.
Yeah.
Say it again.
So I switched brokerages and like 12 hours later switched back. Because I got a really good offer that I kept telling my brokerage I was taking. I was like, if you match it, I'll stay. And they kept not matching it. And I kept saying, hey, it's nothing personal. I'm just going to take the best offer. So then I switched. And then they called me later in the day after they got the email notifications that all my licenses were gone. And they're like, all right, now we'll match. I'm like, well, I've already moved, and I don't move for lateral moves. So I'm like, now you have to incentivize me to switch brokerages back. So they came back like 4 or 5 hours later, beating, with a better offer. They had like 30 to 45 days to match, and stupidly didn't. But I mean, I guess that's part of being with a large corporation.
Yeah, it's as far as brokerages. Alex, you're taking your classes right now.
I passed the class. I need to take the state and local test and get my license.
What's great about that, I think it's 70% for you to pass. So
I'm shooting for 70.
Fingers crossed.
What do you call it? What do you call a medical student who graduates with all C's?
A doctor.
A doctor.
So, are we doing these jokes right now?
Let's do it. Just tell me a joke. Let me hear a joke.
Oh, this one's. So this goes back to about an hour and a half ago, because we're already past 2 hours. This has been fun. I've been having a good time. And it's so inappropriate, but it
alcohol helps.
So I hang on. I gotta remember it first so that I say it right.
Go to pause the recording. Pause everything. Hold up.
Go to commercial. We haven't had a commercial break in an hour and 45 minutes.
A quick message from our sponsors. Go to Bigger Pockets. Sign up.
Attila's excited back there.
And then Attila.
Yeah, Bigger Pockets. Hey, sponsor this, and also stop flagging my posts when I'm just trying to help somebody.
You know what's fucked up? You know what's fucked up? Both me and Russell are moderators on that board.
That's why I'm not active on Bigger Pockets, because I was flagged so much.
That's because you're a shameless whore, self-promoting whore. My name's Luke, the author of the Flipping Blueprint. How can I help you?
If you're interested, I'm speaking at BPCon on how to get around the causing trouble and making money from it.
Yeah. So the joke is, I don't know why, women keep complaining about not making as much as men, right? They keep, what they do is they keep applying for jobs that pay less. You know, you have a woman that's a doctor, and she applies for woman doctor, or she applies for woman lawyer. Like, there's jobs that pay more. Like, just apply for the right job. Come on.
You're an idiot. Ceci's, it's all men in the room, by the way. Ceci
It is. That's why I said
it. She's cool though. She wouldn't have been mad.
My wife isn't listening right now, so I can say it. But I don't believe it.
Oh no, it's just to stir people up. I got you. Look at him. What's up? What you need?
Hey, my dog stopped barking.
No,
I wonder if I was to press the button, if it was would mess up your dog right now. I think it would.
Why do you mispronounce double T's?
T's?
T. When there's two T's in a word, you mispronounce it.
You say it, and then I'll say it.
Button.
Button.
Written. Yeah.
Hey guys. Asher. So my son's right here, right? What's one of the words I say? I'm from Wisconsin originally, also. How do you say water?
Well, I'm from Rhode Island, so
Water.
I would say it water.
Water.
Yeah, coffee.
Yeah,
Park your car over there.
Coffee. So I do the long O's, right?
Yeah.
Bag. I do the long A's. Bag. Say bag.
Bag.
Yeah, bag. Right. We're right there.
Hot A.
You're gonna go park the car.
Yeah, go park your car over there. We'll stop and get some birthday cards.
Russell, you're being awfully quiet about this.
Yeah, I'm starting to hit a wall. But yeah, I'm from not that far from where Alex is. I'm from Boston, so we drop the R's and add the R's onto other words.
Oh, you see, you have your own language. Got it.
Alex, how do you pronounce the former president's name? The one who...
Obama?
Yeah.
Obama?
Okay. So I say it, and a lot of my family says it Obama, like adding the R onto the end.
So,
the
Boston...
You don't say it, that asshole.
Oh, God. Oh, boy.
I know that douchebag wore a tan suit that time. He put Grey Poupon mustard on his sandwich.
No, the crazy thing is, so many people like to be political, right? And we've touched on some political things throughout this journey tonight. I'm a registered Green Party. Right? Because I care about the environment. I love to go camping and hiking and doing all kinds of amazing things. I care about where we live and what's happening. I also own a lot of businesses, and I like money. So what I care for doesn't always go to what I vote for. And so many people are just so straight line, like this is the only thing. It's like, open your eyes and understand everything that's out there.
Yeah, well, people are intellectually lazy. And so they much prefer, you know what I think it is? They people make fun of the WWE, and then they and then they watch politics as if it's real in the same way. And I think to myself, it's a sitcom. Largely, it's a sitcom. And so, but to your point, I think that voting third party for something you believe in is far more important than voting for a team just because you don't like the other team.
Right. So it's where you're voting for something that is based on idealism versus what's going to benefit you.
Well, and also, I don't think most people. It's something like, what is it? it's something like 80%, 40% votes left because they're part of the left team, and 40% vote right because they're part of the right team. And then 10% is like this, I'll decide. It's like everybody, it's the vote that matters. It's the vote that really decides. It's the last 10%. And it's everything from I'll decide on an election day who I'd like. And then some of it is idealism, which I am a big fan of. I wish we would get a third party this year, to be honest. And then there's all sorts of like, some people vote ideals, but most people vote teams because the parties are, they just propagandize their message so much. It's like, you didn't do anything. You just you just had to say whatever you had to say to get in.
You know what I think is interesting? So there was a study done, it's probably a decade old at this time, where they would take individuals that were highly political, both left and right, and I'm sure they probably did it with people that were in other parts of the political spectrum as well. And they would put them into like these MRI machines, CAT scan machines, and they would scan their brains while people read political statements to them. And it was interesting. It was they would read like abortion is good or abortion is bad, all these hyper partisan issues. And the parts of the brain that would light up were the emotional centers of the brain, and the logical centers of the brain wouldn't react at all, which it was really interesting.
Yeah, people, they're fucking underread and overopinionated. They go by feeling, and they think that they're
right.
Well, it is their right. It is their right, but it's also very dangerous because,
Well, hang on, wait. They have an opinion. It's just given to them by somebody that has no knowledge.
Yeah, the world really is the blind leading the blind more than people care to. More than they understand. And so, yeah, they have an opinion, but it's been given to them. And very often, I think that the politicians themselves are indiscriminate, blind power brokers without any ideals. Nixon, I read the autobiography of Nixon, and what I realized real quick was Nixon didn't believe in anything. He just wanted to hold on to power. And I don't know that he's that. There's been some idealists in office, but I don't know that there's that many. I think they're literally just power brokers.
And they don't know. Anyone that had a 1 year or a one-term presidency was most likely an idealist.
I'd like to look that up. I'd be interested if that's
Carter.
I don't know the history that well, so I have to spend some time on that. But that's an interesting claim.
I
seem to tend to the politicians I like or don't like. Oftentimes depends on what personal interactions I've had with people. So like, there's people from my own party that I've had an interaction with that I think are complete assholes. And there's members of the other party I've had interactions with, and I'm like, wow, that guy's a really nice guy.
Yeah, that's very anecdotal, though, don't you think?
Yeah,
does the T-shirt they're wearing say what party they're from?
Oh, well, I usually know. So, like, in addition to real estate, so I lobby for an NAR. So I end up having, and it's DC, like,
right? Yeah. I know.
We all have politicians as neighbors. John Daly, who ran for president, lives right down the street.
I've got lobbyist friends, so I get it.
Hey, do you know a guy in Vegas? I bet you know him now. Miguel Cordova.
It sounds familiar, but I'm not placing it right now.
He's a new guy in Vegas, relatively new. He was a campaign. He raised political campaign money for state offices in California, and then he moved to Las Vegas about 2 years ago. I didn't know if you know him, but anyway.
That's it.
I'll tell you, when I went to Vegas, Jay Heinrichs really sold Vegas really well. Like, I couldn't believe like the kind of houses your money would buy there.
I tried to get Jay Heinrichs to hang out with me for like a year and a half, And he's like, I'm sure at the first he's like, Alex, I don't know you. You're small time. Fuck off. And then over time with my bigger pockets, you know, the time I put in that website, he saw me more and more. And he's like, yeah, I'd love to hang out one day. Da, da, da. But, you know, I only live there during the winters because fuck the summers there. I live in Oregon. And so by the time I left, I didn't get to link up with him before I left. So I'm frustrated that you got to meet him and I never met him.
Oh yeah, we had a good time. We had lunch. We went through Red Rock Canyon.
I don't take his phone calls.
Yeah.
I don't take phone calls unless you wear a collared shirt. Fuck, that's half my Rolodex right there. I can't call.
Only so I can show up in my t-shirt, my V-neck, and show you this is where I am.
But he took me to see these houses, and they were like $700,000, and they would have been like $3 million here.
$700,000 in Las Vegas gets you a lot of house.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed. I was like, I could see living here.
Russell, next time you come in, let me take you to some of the $10 million houses.
Okay, fancy.
Be like 20,000 square feet.
What's up with the mansion that they paint? Are you familiar with this? The graffiti mansion?
In Vegas?
Yeah.
I don't know this one. No.
You got to Google this shit. There's a place called the Graffiti Mansion on Instagram. And it's painted all like Louis Vuitton.
Is it Airbnb? Because it's not doing very well right now.
And they repaint it every few months. And they video them repainting it, and it's like $30,000 a pop. And they do it every few months.
My 12-year-old son knows about it.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, but I was like, this is
Graffiti Mansion.
Graffiti Mansion. It's just like,
How do I find Google on Google.com?
okay, you're drunk.
All right, I think I'm starting to hit a wall. So
Yeah. It's probably I gotta leave the house at 6 a.m. anyway, so it's probably good for me to split.
Okay.
Luke, thank you so much, dude. This was fantastic, and I'm gonna be doing this on the regular, so I'll make sure I invite you back soon. Jay Scott said the same thing. I was like, Jay Scott's not gonna have any fun here. He ended up doing 3.5 hours with me. He's like, this is a blast.
Well, you know, it's you get people drinking and they loosen up. That's why I started doing the Sibs and Flips episodes.
How's it going?
It's always been amazing. Because I'm not a golfer and I close deals at bars, right? So that's why I do Sips and Flips, because I get when pre-corona, I would have a friend come to the office and we would talk for an hour or two and share information. And it's like, okay, you are getting an eavesdrop on this conversation that people are having at a much higher level than you're at, and you can ask questions. It's pretty cool.
That's the same idea I have here. It's like, let's have a high concept, high level conversation with smart people in a variety of different places, in a variety of different locations, over booze. What an alcoholic. That's why I love you.
You still owe me a drink. I bought you a drink and it wasn't even my event.
When Vegas opens back up, I'm coming. I'll buy you a drink. You know what? It's on audio. It's recorded. I'll buy you 2.
I like it.
All right, let's close it down. This has been Better Drinking Buddies, episode 7. Luke Weber, thank you so much. Russell, thank you so much.
Peace.
Be well, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Luke. Good to see you, buddy. Be well.
Bye.